Welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville. An apology. I got into the habit of doing these weekly news services. I was really enjoying it, but then work got really busy, life got really busy, and the whole Moonwatch thing happened. And the whole, I don't know about you, but after the first like 2 or 3 dozen stories, the whole moon thing just got really dull. But worse, I think all the other players in the field kind of realized there was not a lot of point competing with it. And so, a lot of the other watch news places like Watch Time and Time and Tide and Watchville were just recycling old stories about remember the story we did 6 months ago rather than put out new stuff. So there wasn't really much to report for the last couple of weeks anyway. I was scrambling to put something together about now, but then a big news story dropped. Everyone's doing their hot take on it, and I figured rather than bury this story within sort of a general news service, I would do one. I would sort of concentrate on just that. But first, I'll do a little bit of a setup thing. It's late winter. It's now mid-August in Australia. Well, it's mid-August everywhere, but in Australia, what that means is we're coming to the end of the Australian rules football season. Very exciting time for me. I'm a huge Richmond fan. Our team is doing very well. We're probably going to make it deep into the finals. I realise I just said a lot of stuff that most of you won't care about. But I think most people around the world would know that towards the end of a season, it's a time when sort of the older players who can't quite keep up anymore start to announce their retirements. And they announce their retirement so they can squeeze 1 or 2 more games in front of the home crowd, wring a little bit more kind of praise and hero worship out of their membership before they vanish forever and never to be seen again. Something very similar is happening in the watch community right now, and that is the Seiko SKX, a once great player that is no longer competitive in the watch game, appears to have been retired. It appears that it's now in the process of doing, depending on how you look at it, either one victory lap or one more pass around the sinkhole before it finally being flushed, and its time to leave has come. Now, this has been on the cards for quite a while. The demise of the SKX has been rumoured since I first started watching watch videos on YouTube. So I'd say at least 3 years there's been this story that the SKX is dead. I've heard several rumours saying that Seiko actually ceased production of the SKX some years ago, and all we're seeing now is run out. There's actually, if you think about the timing of bringing out a whole 27 new watches in the Seiko 5 sports line, there might be some truth to that. But anyway, might be, might not be, we don't know. Even now, the actual death of the SKX I don't think is official. I haven't seen anything from Seiko saying it's dead. Instead, what we've seen is a lot of younger players jostling around in the locker room, kind of in the space where you'd expect the SKX to be. So we've assumed that it's gone, but maybe I'm not. Maybe we've jumped the gun. I don't think so. I suspect it's dead. Yeah, so the upshot is none of us in the commentariat seem really surprised by the demise of the SKX, but I think a lot of people are kind of saddened by it. There's a few people who are disappointed, and there's a number of people who are actually quite angry. I think the people that are angry aren't so much angry about the fact that the SKX is dead rather than what replaced it. And why are they angry? Because the Seiko SKX was kind of a hardcore tool watch, a dive watch, a beta watch, and the new watch, well, isn't those things. It's the same. It looks like a slightly nicer case than the SKX, but I haven't seen one in my hand, so that might be completely wrong. But essentially the same case design as the SKX, a better movement, but everything else has been downgraded. only 100-meter water resistance for the new Seiko 5 Sports. No screw down crown, no loom pip on the bezel, and probably most importantly, no ISO rating. So this is very much one of those diver-like type things that Seiko has done occasionally, but has always been forgiven because the SKX was there. Now they're just going diver-like with no SKX. And a lot of people, and probably the best example would be Jory over on the Time Teller, are really not happy about that decision. Okay, so this is my take. So remember back on the 26th of June, you won't, but I'm going to tell you, on the 26th of June, I did a watch review. I did one of my first, I think it might have been my second one of these industry things. And I reported on an interview that I read between Watch Time and the CEO of Seiko when he was doing a tour of America. And in that interview, the CEO of Seiko really emphasized that moving forward, Seiko was going to be much clearer in its branding. It was going to be much clearer about what it stood for, and it was going to do that by dividing up and having a Prospex line, by having a Presage line, by having an Astron line, and so on and so forth. And they'd be very precise about what they were. And I actually said that this could be an early announcement to say one day the kind of Seiko name will be backed out. And I wondered if one day what you would see is a watch with nothing but Prospex or Presage on it. Now, we're not there yet, but this move by Seiko is a fantastic play, and maybe an essential play to moving forward with that strategy. The Prospex line is pretty well understood. We know what it is. They're the professional divers that Seiko make for people that want to take diving, or at least take the idea of diving seriously. But the presence of the SKX made the distinction between Prospex and plain old Seiko unclear. The ISO rated and essentially Prospect, but not Prospex, SKX was really quite confusing. To move forward into the strategy that was perhaps foreshadowed, the SKX had to change. It wasn't good enough as it was. The movement and case design was such it wasn't good enough to become a Prospex, and it was too good to stay a Seiko. So something had to change. And Seiko decided, and I don't think anyone would disagree, that there was no scope to improve the SKX. Any improvement to like clean up the case design, give it a new movement, obviously, would have just pushed it directly into competition with the Samurai and the Turtle, which are already jostling right next to each other within tens of dollars apart. And an upgraded SKX would have just been a third watch competing with two other Seiko watches. So that was never going to happen, which means that Seiko's effectively now got only two options. They can either neuter the SKX, so keep a thing that's called the SKX, make it worse and have it still for sale, or they could shoot it in the head, kill it, bury it in an unmarked grave, and bring out some sort of complete successor. I think Seiko did the right thing and they made the mercy call, and yeah, the SKX is now buried in a yard somewhere out in the boondocks. Now, I think this is a smart move from Seiko. Yeah, there's going to be some short-term pain, and a lot of people are going to whinge and bitch about the fact that their beloved SKX is gone. They'll probably ignore the fact it was a pretty terrible watch, but they I think we got to the point, again using my player analogy, it was such a well-loved player that we're sad to see it go, even though it wasn't really competitive and it was kind of clogging up the list. But in a few months, we will all leave the gravesite, we will move on and embrace the new. Now, I'm not going to do a full review of the Seiko 5 Sports. There's a lot of other people talking about it, but essentially, I think it looks like it's perfectly designed to do what it is supposed to do the actual job that the SKX did. Now, the actual job that the SKX did not do was strap itself to the wrists of actual divers and go underwater and time people's dives. It had stopped doing that years ago. All divers have stopped doing that years ago. But so what was its real role? Its real role was to be kind of this entry-level mechanical watch for people just first getting into the hobby, that was kind of just robust enough that you didn't have to worry about it. You could beat it up a little bit, cheap enough that if you did beat it up a bit too much, you weren't going to be too upset by it. And interesting enough that you and sort of sized so it could be worn by a large number of people in many demographics, and worn in lots of different areas. Now, it's clear that the new Seiko 5 sports line is designed to do exactly that. Okay, so it's robust. 100 meters water resistance is still pretty good, still puts you in that dressy tool watch sort of category, but it's not so much that it's going to be confused for a diver. The design is quite large across. I think it's 43 millimeters. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Which is a big watch with big watch presence, but it's only 48 millimeters lug to lug, I believe. So it's going to be wearable on a wide number of wrists. But where the SKX only came in three or four different colorways, Seiko has really recognized the role of this watch in this kind of entry-level fashion space, and has just blown it out with, I understand there's 27 different variants, but there'll be some dial and brace and band options in there. But from what I could quickly see, there's probably at least 10 to 12 completely different colorways in this. So they've really set themselves up with a full array of dressy tool / sports watches that will fit and feature and suit a wide number of people, a wide range of people, at a price point which is accessible and at a capability point that doesn't run the risk of confusing itself with either the Astron or the Presage, or most importantly the Prospex line. So right now I'd be saying Seiko nailed this. They got it absolutely right. There's going to be a few people in our little watch geeky community that had particularly strong emotional relationship with the SKX, and they're going to bemoan the fact that it's gone and that its replacement isn't a one-for-one replacement. I think they're wrong, or that they're not wrong to be upset. You're allowed to be upset. That's perfectly okay for you. But if they claim that this is a poor move by Seiko, that this will harm Seiko, then they are wrong. This is actually a very smart move, and I think it's the move that Seiko had to make. Yeah, so anyway, that's my take. That's what I think of the new Seiko 5 line. Seiko 5 sports line. I think it's a really smart move. I've been Pete McConville. This has been Not So Obvious Watches. If you hang on for a little while longer, a card will come up soon, which has got my Instagram handle and my email address. If you want to get in contact with me, a DM through Instagram or an email through the email address there would be great. Leave a comment below. We'll have a bit of a chat in the comments about my thoughts. Please subscribe to the channel. Also hit the little bell icon, because it's really nice if you get a notification I've posted. YouTube is still telling me that approximately 2/3 of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribers. So what that means, there's a whole bunch of you which I can still get to subscribe. It would be great if you did, so please do. Thanks very much. I'll see you later. Bye.